Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. In our hyper-connected world, an email address is way more than just a tool to send a message. It's actually the master key we use to unlock basically our entire digital lives. Bank accounts, social media profiles, corporate networks, you name it. Today, we're going to explore exactly how that single, persistent digital identifier can be used to uncover a mountain of publicly available information, building a complete investigation right from the ground up.
Here is our investigative workflow for today. 1. Foundations of OSINT. 2. Email address verification. 3. Domain and breach analysis. 4. Expanding to usernames. 5. Searching public documents. And finally, 6. Ethics and corroboration. Let's get started.
Section 1. Foundations of OSINT. Before we start tracking down any digital footprints, we really need to clearly define what we're actually doing here. The absolute most crucial point: OSINT is completely distinct from hacking. Hacking is all about breaching systems or bypassing security, right? OSINT, on the other hand, is the ethical, totally legal gathering of information that is already out there in the open. But there's a vital distinction we've got to make right off the bat. Raw data is not intelligence. Finding a name in a public directory, that's just raw data. Realizing that name connects to a specific corporate network, okay, now that's processed information. But when we actually verify that connection to prove a suspect owns a shell company, boom, that is analyzed intelligence. And this brilliantly illustrates the OSINT cycle. It's basically an iterative loop where every new clue we find literally leads to a brand new objective. You collect the data, analyze it for new leads, and then determine your next collection goal. So, say you start with an email and find a username. Well, your next goal is to run that username across social media sites. It's just a continuous, evolving loop of discovery.
Now, take a look at this. It's honestly incredible just how many interconnected data points can stem from one single email address. From domains to public records, it's all connected. The OSINT framework you see here is a visual map of publicly available resources. Whether you're an investigative journalist, a cybersecurity analyst doing corporate due diligence, or even a fraud investigator, this framework shows you exactly where to look next when you're investigating an identifier.
Section 2. Email address verification.
Let's move on to our first practical step, which is making absolutely sure the email address we're investigating is actually real. We always say, validate before you investigate. If we don't prove the data is valid first, we risk wasting hours chasing a ghost account. Imagine you're investigating an extortion case, right? You spend days looking into an email address, only to realize it was mistyped, or maybe it's just a temporary, disposable burner account that doesn't even exist anymore. So, we always validate first. To prevent those dead ends, we rely on a cluster of highly effective verification tools. These check domain security, historical reputation, and even associated social media profiles. For instance, plugging a target email into emailrep.io might tell you that the address has been active for 12 years, has a solid reputation, and is linked to Twitter and GitHub. I mean, that is incredibly strong evidence. On the flip side, if it shows absolutely no history, you might be dealing with a burner account created purely for malicious activity. We also use tools like hunter.io, which is fantastic for verifying corporate email structures without tipping off our target, and MailTester for general address validation.
Section 3. Domain and breach analysis. Okay, so once we've verified the email actually exists, we need to extract its domain and start looking for historical breadcrumbs left across the web. By isolating the domain, the part after the @ symbol, we can use tools like Whois and Shodan to identify who owns the web infrastructure and what servers are connected to it. Now, if the email is a standard consumer address, like a Gmail account, we'd skip this. But if it's a custom domain, say at privacy-training.com, Whois data can reveal who registered the site and their contact info. Shodan, which is essentially a search engine for connected devices and servers, can literally show us the actual hardware hosting that domain. And tools like Spiderfoot can help automate all that data correlation for us. Next, we run the email through breach databases to see if it was exposed in past data leaks. This gives us a historical map of exactly which services our target was using. Tools like Have I Been Pawned, Dehashed, or Breach Directory securely search massive archives of stolen data. If your target's email was caught in, say, a 2013 Tumblr breach and a 2018 LinkedIn breach, well, you now have verified proof of their platform history. And honestly, maybe it's a good reminder for us to go delete our own old embarrassing blogs. But seriously, this is vital intelligence.
Section 4. Expanding to usernames.
But what happens when our initial search methods just run completely dry? What if that email address is a total dead end? Well, this is exactly where we have to pivot our investigation and really look at the anatomy of the email itself. We have to squeeze every single drop of intelligence out of that address formatting. We can strip away the domain entirely to isolate the username and then run that specific handle through multi-site scanners like NameCheck to find hidden public profiles. Think about it. If the email is johndoe1287@gmail.com, the username is johndoe1287. People are creatures of habit, right? We all reuse usernames across the web. By running that handle through scanners, we can instantly see if that identical username is registered on Spotify, Reddit, or some niche technical forum.
We can also generate lists of assumed email addresses. We do this by pairing our extracted username, or even a real name, with common providers like Gmail, Yahoo, or Hotmail to see if other accounts exist. Let's say we found the username, but the primary email gave us absolutely nothing. We can assume they might have other accounts. So we take that username and test it with @Yahoo, @Hotmail, or even test variations based on real names. If we know they attended a specific university, we append the school's domain or maybe a corporate domain. This proactive generation of email permutations very often uncovers secondary accounts that the target uses for their more private activities.
When you take those variations to search engines, you absolutely must understand the difference between a broad query and wrapping your target in quotes to force an exact match. This is just a fundamental concept. A search engine without quotes is going to return millions of results containing the target's first name, last name, or just the word email. It's overwhelming. But by wrapping the email in quotation marks, you force the search engine to only return pages where that exact specific string of characters appears. It cuts right through the noise and leaves you with precise, actionable intelligence.
Section 5. Searching public documents.
With our exact match queries in hand, we can now dig into the global archives of digital paperwork. Using tailored search syntax, often called search engine dorks, which are really just advanced search commands, alongside databases like OCCRP ELIF, we can uncover an absolute goldmine of documents. We're talking resumes, public filings, and technical configurations tied directly to the email. For example, by searching the target's name in quotes, followed by the word resume or CV, you can often find their complete employment history. We also query resources like OCCRP ELIF, which is this massive global archive used by investigative journalists to find the email buried deep in court transcripts or corporate registries.
Furthermore, online forums, mailing lists, technical communities, and archived historical websites often harbor intimate details and contact pages that have long been deleted from the live web. This is exactly where the Wayback Machine shines. A target might have deleted their personal blog back in 2015, but by searching the archive version, we might find their email address sitting right there on an old Contact Me page. It really proves that on the internet, nothing is ever truly deleted. Developer platforms like GitHub are also absolute goldmines, as users frequently, and often accidentally, leave their corporate or personal emails exposed in their public code commits.
Section 6. Ethics and corroboration.
Okay, so we've gathered incredible amounts of data, but now we must apply the most important filters of all: critical thinking and ethical boundaries. Always remember, correlation does not imply causality. If you find an email or a common name associated with a threat, keep in mind that similar data does not automatically mean you have the right person. This is exactly the difference between weak evidence and strong evidence. Finding a John Smith who lives in the same city as your target, that's pretty weak evidence. But finding a John Smith who lives in that city, uses the exact unique username from your initial email address, and is listed in a data breach alongside your target's known phone number, now that is strong, highly actionable intelligence.
Which brings us to the golden rule. Never rely on a single source of information. You must always corroborate with multiple independent sources. We have to always respect privacy, adhere strictly to platform terms of service, and cross-reference our findings to eliminate dangerous false positives. An OSINT professional never, ever writes a final report based on one single search result. If a breach database tells you an email is linked to a name, you've got to find a second, entirely independent source, like a public property record or a verified social media account, to confirm it. Without corroboration, honestly, you're just guessing. And that concludes our explainer on email investigations. We've gone from the raw data of a single address, verified it, stripped it down for its domain and username, mapped its history through data breaches, and corroborated our findings across public documents. It really makes you wonder, though, if a total stranger can build this kind of comprehensive profile from a single email address, just how robust is your own digital footprint across the open web right now? Think about it. Join us in the next explainer where we'll be applying these exact same methodologies to tracing telephone numbers. See you then.